Hi everyone. We're just going to do a quick demo of the Easy Icons asset and kind of go over some of the features and new features that have been added to the latest update. Um, so after you install the package, you can open it by going to Tools, CI Devs, Easy Icons, and we can dock it here. Now, the purpose of this asset is mainly to create icons from 3D objects. You could drag an object in here, or you can drag it into the prefab field. And I'm just going to use some prefab that I have in here and drag it in here. And then we'll see the icon that is being generated. One of the new features is that there are now presets, and there's 3 presets by default, which sit in the package folder, as you can see in here. And you can easily switch between presets. You can create new presets by default that would be created in um, a different folder, which is in here in the Easy Icons presets folder. Now, there's quite a lot of new settings, um, quite a lot of new easier ways to control the objects. So I can rotate my object using the mouse. I can scale it using the scroller of the mouse, the scroller wheel, and I can also pan this using the right mouse button, or I can use the controls in here. You can easily change the resolution of the icon. You could also change it to custom size if you want to, or revert to the square sizes. When you save it, you can change the prefab name, otherwise it will automatically set it to, the icon name. If you don't set a custom name, it'll use the prefab name. You can see where it's going to save the icon. And you can also quickly switch the prefabs here by using those little arrows. So it'll just find whatever I have in the folder and go through these objects. So if you have multiple prefabs in one folder, you can easily switch between those and um, create multiple icons this way. Now, one of the new features is the ability to create different renderings. So if we, by default, you have the normal render, which is whatever material your object has. We can use a mask. And then on the mask, we can say, okay, we want only the prefab to be masked. If you uncheck this, it'll use the same mask for the entire icon. And we can change the color. And now these are gradients. You can add different colors here. So as you can see, I can also change this to be diagonal or radial or angular, which will just rotate. And we have different presets. So you can see we have a rainbow, and we also have an angular rainbow that works really well with the angular um, direction. And those presets can also be augmented. So in the resources folder, you'll see those libraries in here. So you can go to the gradient library, and just going to move this inspector in here. So you see these are the default gradients, and you can add custom gradients to that if you want to, that you'll be able to reuse, and they'll show up in the presets. Um, the 2 new render modes are the tune, and you can choose different colors for this. So we can choose the lit color and the shadow color. For example, I can choose a light yellow and like a darker yellow for the shadows. And it might be easier to use a simple object like this. And there's another shader which is called Tune 2, and this one has edge detection, so it's kind of more of an outline shader, stylized, and you can change the width of the outline, you can change the color, and it's just a really easy way to create stylized icons this way. Now, if we're going back to the icon itself, we can choose the radius of this icon and modify it. We can also choose the border. We can disable the border entirely, um, or we can change the type of the border. So we're currently at shapes. We can just have a solid border, and everything is dynamic. So each of these works with the rounding and the other settings, and we can change the border width. We can also change this to, we can see which types of, there's built-in shapes. So this is hexagons, there's dots. You can reduce the density so you can see how those actually look. There's dashes, diamonds, so all kinds of different shapes. Additionally, there's icons, and this um, is also using a library. So if there's a few here in the presets, but you can open that shape library and upload your own icons, and you can create any kind of border that you like. And the other type is the slice 9 texture, which also uses a library. And there's currently 3 that I've prepared, but you can add any texture that is sliced, like for UI, using the slice line technique, and this will stretch according to the slicing. So if you see here, if I change this, it'll properly scale this border, and I can choose which one I want to use here. And again, this uses again the gradients, and I can again choose a different gradient and a different direction for it. All right, and then we can do a similar thing for the background fill. We can choose again a type of gradient, and just change this so it's a little more visible. And so you can choose again the gradient and a direction for the background fill. Additionally, there's a couple of options. You can add a light, which is mostly useful if you're not using any of the fancy shaders, but if you're using the normal render. So if you're using the normal render, you can add a light, and you can choose what color that light is, and kind of, have your object lit a certain way. And anti-aliasing, which is turned on by default, will make sure that the icon is a little bit smoother. Um, but you can see, so if we go back to, for example, this, and let's see, make something more interesting. Let me reduce this, and okay, let's say something like this. And we generate this icon, we'll see, okay, the icon was saved. And if we go to the easy icons folder, we can now see our icon. All right, and that's about it. I think there's quite a lot of settings. Some of these buttons here just to help you. Um, if you've moved this quite out of the, let's say you've played around with these settings here too much and now your object's out of the view, you can just hit recenter, and you can also reset your prefab settings. So it'll move everything. So we can reset this. This will move the object back to 0, reset our camera, and now we're back in business. Right? And that's about it. Thanks, everyone.